morning and welcome to the list on UWW-TV. I'm Zach Kreider.
And I'm Charlie Siegel. And for the next few minutes, we'll present our top 5 sports stories of the week and discuss why they made the top 5. Did your top 5 make our list? Let's find out. At number 5, a lot takes place each week in the MLB, and this week was no different. Zach, let's discuss the headlines from this past week in the majors.
Well, there's one team I want to focus on specifically, and that is the Athletic baseball team. Now, they're on a 5-game win streak right now, 7-3 in their last 10 ball games. And it's a team that has certainly had their rough patches over the years, but I think they're really on the upswing. I think they're trending in the right direction. A couple players I'd like to highlight, starting off with Jeffrey Springs, 33-year-old pitcher. I think he's really found his home with the Athletics, currently holding down a 1.47 ERA, 15 punch-outs across just 18 innings of work. He's been phenomenal. Aaron Civale, former Brewers pitcher, also had a great start to the season so far. He a 1.72 ERA as well. The pitching has been on point for the A's. Going over to the bats, Jeff McNeil, surprising start to the season. He's done really well, leading the team with a .333 batting average. He's been incredible. And guys like Tyler Soderstrom, Nick Kurtz, Brent Rooker, Lawrence Butler, a team that is really well constructed, I think, in my opinion. And I think they can make a lot of noise here this season.
Taking a look around the league, there are some teams we need to briefly touch base on. In the American League, the Yankees are cooling down after losing 5 straight to the Athletics and the Tampa Bay Rays. Aaron Judge has been hitting at a whopping .218 batting average recently, which could evidently be the reason as to why the Yankees have been losing and cooling down. And Zach, I think I might be cursing some of the teams here on the list because last week we talked about the Houston Astros hot start, and now we're here to talk about the fall off of the Houston Astros, who are 6-10 after losing 7 straight to the Mariners and the Rockies. I think it's safe to say the Astros shall remain grounded.
At number 4, the Frozen Four wrapped up Saturday night with the Denver Pioneers being crowned as the 2026 men's NCAA hockey champions with a 2-1 victory over the Wisconsin Badgers. Charlie, what did you make of this year's Frozen Four finale?
Zach, this was a great game between really the best matchup we could have asked for in the Frozen Four finale. Unfortunately for you Badger fans, they couldn't get it done this time. They had a great first 2 periods, but we have to talk about the reason as to why they lost. That is Denver's goalie Johnny Hicks, who I would say single-handedly won the tournament for the Pioneers. Watching Johnny play reminded me a little of this past February where we watched Connor Hellebuck's legendary performance in the gold medal game between the pipes. In the championship game, Hicks made 29 saves, leading a team to a 2-1 victory over Wisconsin. This win marked Denver's 11th national championship title, extending their record as the winningest team in men's D1 ice hockey history. Hicks finished the season with a 16-0-1 record and a .957 save percentage, showcasing his exceptional goaltending ability in the tournament. And Hicks is 20 years old, and he is draft eligible after the season. Zach, I think a few teams in the NHL could use a clutch goalie like Hicks, but unfortunately they are concerned about his 5'10" frame.
Yeah, certainly so. Felt really good as a Badger fan, across the first 2 periods, and they were dominating on shots on goal. They had that 1-0 lead, but ultimately it was the championship experience of Denver that really pushed the needle and ultimately got them to scoring those 2 goals in the third. Kyle Chuzowski and Rieger Lorenz, they consistently pressured goaltender Daniel Hauser for the Badgers. At the end of the day, when you have that kind of championship experience, that's always going to trump anything. You've been in the moment before. You know what to do. You know what not to do. You know how to handle that kind of pressure. And ultimately, that's why they have the most championships now in Division I college hockey. Looking forward for the Badgers players such as Simon Tassi, Christian Fitzgerald. They are seniors, so they are going to be leaving. And, of course, we have to wait to see what's going to happen with Quinn Finley. He's a junior right now. He's got a decision to make. But, we'll see how they reload next year.
At number 3, Doc Rivers will not be returning as the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks for the 2026-27 season. About 80 miles west, Chris McIntosh, the Wisconsin Badgers athletic director, will be leaving his role and taking a job with the Big Ten. Zach, what does all this turnover mean for these Wisconsin sports teams?
Well, I would love to start with Doc Rivers. I have a lot to say here.
I know you have a lot to say.
He's stepping away now from the Milwaukee Bucks head coaching position. Across his tenure, he was 97 and 103. Not the greatest. He consistently underperformed with good lineups. Of course, there was a lot of injuries to both Giannis and Dame, who he had across his tenure. But ultimately, the coaching was just not up to snuff. Like you could tell, it was just not great. I've never really seen a coach benefit more from a single championship more than Doc Rivers. Of course, he won 2008 with the original Big Three, Boston Celtics, KG, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce. And since then, it's just been complete mediocrity. He's had great teams, and he does well in the regular season. There's a reason he's 6th all-time in wins, because he's had great teams around him, but he doesn't get them to where they want to be. He's the only coach who has blown multiple 3-1 leads in the playoffs. And there was a quote of him saying something along the lines of, well, at least I got those 3 wins. That's a ridiculous statement.
You can't be saying that.
Exactly. If you can't get it done, then you can't get it done. when it comes down to it, I'm excited for what the Bucks, the next direction, where they're going to go next. And ultimately, Doc Rivers' legacy, I don't really know how we have to look at that.
Honestly, Zach, I think both of these roles could be wide open with the Badgers men's hockey team making the finals. I think it's a great time to bring in a new culture following a huge accomplishment for the university. I think the number one key to finding a successful athletic director fit is someone who can convince a top prospect from places like Florida or Texas to come play and live in Wisconsin. Chris McIntosh, for example, his football record over the past 5 years was a disappointing 32-31 record over his tenure. When you have a football game where your punter has more passing yards than your quarterback, you know you have an issue. You have to bring in better guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got more coming up on the list, including a discussion on the NBA season coming to an end. And we will also say a quick hello to our friends who were in Augusta over the weekend. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the show. Josh, let's take a look at some highlights from this last game here. What a performance by the UWW-TV staff in this one.
Absolutely. Look at this clip. Bree is going to signal for Ryan to cut to camera 2, but instead Ryan's going to cut to 3, and that's where things might take a turn. But hold on a second here. Just when you think it's over, Bree makes the split-second decision and reaches over Ryan to cut to camera 2 herself.
And the truck goes wild. Once again, the UWW-TV staff delivers.
Here at UW Whitewater Intramural Sports, we have a motto: a sport for everyone and everyone in a sport.
Come on! That's it anyways. Oh, she got that off, and they're going to count it.
Had a blast. Always have fun at intramurals.
Every day we strive to go above and beyond that goal by providing healthy exercise, promoting leisure education, and giving students that competitive atmosphere they are looking for.
Yes! Yes!
It's exciting. Brings me back to those high school days with Friday Night Lights.
With our 25 different intramural sports offered, we guarantee that we have a sport for you. Go to our website and find your sport today.
Welcome back to the list on UWW-TV. Let's continue the countdown to this week's top sports stories. At number 2, the 2026 NBA season officially wrapped up Sunday night with all 30 teams in action. Charlie, let's take a look at the standings heading into the playoffs and discuss what happened over the last week in the association.
Well, first off, the Denver Nuggets ended their season on a 12-game winning streak, earning them the 3rd seed, where they will take on the Minnesota Timberwolves as the 6th seed. The Hornets made the playoffs for the first time since the Obama administration in 2016. And Cooper Flagg left the game early Sunday night. That may put his lock of Rookie of the Year at risk. But more importantly, the number one thing that I've got to talk about is Luka Doncic, who is still injured and will be out as the LA Lakers take on the Houston Rockets in the 4-5 matchup. Luka's absence could put the Rockets in a sweep position, but the Lakers are going to need to squeeze everything LeBron James has left in him in order to advance out of the first round with Luka's absence.
Yeah, no kidding. Really looking forward to seeing how that's going to play out. But looking at both sides of the bracket here on the West, you have the Spurs. They clinched that 2 seed. They're going to play whoever comes out of the play-in. And then you have the Nuggets, like you said, finished on a tear to end the season. They're going up against the T-Wolves at that 6 seed. I think if those two face off in the second round, which we expect they will, I think that's going to be the best series of the entire playoffs. I do have the Spurs making it out of the West. We've seen them be able to handle a team like the Thunder all season. But it's really going to come down to, can they get past the Nuggets? Now, over on the East, it pains me to say it because I'm not a Celtics fan, but I don't see any team that can match up with this Celtics squad. You know, obviously you have the Pistons who got that 1st seed. They deserved it. They played really good basketball. They're young. They're going to be in this position probably multiple more times, down the stretch. But this Celtics team is just way too good. Getting back Jason Tatum. Now, it's clear he's lost a step. And we don't like.
I hate Jason Tatum, and I hate Jason Tatum.
Well, I agree with you there, certainly. But, with him back, lost a step. But, again, they're too experienced.
And our top story of the week, the Masters returned to the center stage this past weekend at Augusta. Zach, let's dissect the 2026 Green Jacket Tournament.
Well, congratulations to Rory McIlroy, one of only 4 players to win the Masters back-to-back years. The only others being Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, and Nick Faldo. He had the biggest lead after 2 rounds in Masters history. That was a 6-stroke lead, and he almost blew it. You know, there were times in the 3rd and 4th round where the iron shots weren't good. You know, his tee shots were very inconsistent, but he was able to consistently, get back. He was able to recover and get back on the green. He was just automatic on the green all Masters long. That's probably why he won. Scottie Scheffler, he made a huge push in round 3, finished 7 under in that round, and then ultimately 4 under in the 4th round to make that push all the way up to a 2nd place finish. Phenomenal golfer. You also had guys like Cameron Young, Justin Rose. They hung around the whole tournament. And going back to Rory, with this win, he's now the all-time leader in career earnings at Augusta, a total accumulation of $13.04 million at Augusta. Crazy stuff.
Congratulations to Rory, but I have a bone to pick with the rest of the Masters. I was surprised throughout the whole tournament, and we've been discussing it the whole week. I think this is some of the worst professional golf I have watched in a long time. Guys were laying up on par 3s, over water all day, and to everyone's expectations, there were a lot of stroke penalties taken on these layups. But I need to address the DeChambeau in the room, +6 in 36 holes and cut in the 1st round. This is not something anyone would have expected from Bryson DeChambeau. He personally is my favorite to compete every single year, even though he is a part of the LIV program. Bryson faces a ton of backlash every year. You know, he's only known for his long drives and his long game, and how long it takes him to get to the green. But the problem is, once he gets to the green, that's when you're going to get a triple bogey out of the bunker. When you're taking 3 shots out of a bunker to get onto the green, that's when you're having your problems. Everyone knows Bryson is not good in his short game. Yes, he won that U.S. Open off of a great bunker shot to putt in and win, but I think it's safe to say Bryson's next video should be a bunker shot only video.
And that will do it for this edition of The List. We'll be back in a week to talk out next week's top 5 sports headlines. I'm Zach Kreider.
And I'm Charlie Siegel. We'll see you next time for more stories right here on UWW TV.